My name is Mo Amir, and this is VANCOLOUR, British Columbia's bona fide culture and politics TV talk show right here on Check and Check Plus. Happy New Year! We're going to kick off 2022 with a very special guest. She is an award-winning Canadian broadcasting icon, a community leader who volunteers thousands of hours in her advocacy for healthcare and the well-being of women, children, and people with disabilities. She started Down Syndrome BC, a registered charity committed to seeing members of BC's Down syndrome community living their best and fullest lives. A recipient of the Order of British Columbia, currently she hosts the TELUS Talks podcasts, which you can find wherever you listen to your podcasts. She is my friend, Tamara Taggart. Tamara, so nice to see you.
Look at you, you're all grown up, you're on TV, this is so great.
Thanks to a lot of support from you. You gave me a lot of behind the scenes advice on what to do. I appreciate it. Happy New Year, we made it.
Oh boy, barely, I feel. Yeah, we made it.
Are you feeling optimistic heading into 2022?
Yeah, I have to. I have 3 kids and, me and my husband are both self-employed, and I think that I have to do my best to have a positive outlook on what's ahead.
Right. I just feel like there is a little more anxiety heading into this year than heading into 2021. 2021, we were like, the vaccines are coming. This thing's going to be over.
Oh, listen, between you and I, I'm a mess. I am filled with anxiety and grief and worry and stress. And so on the outside, yes, I'm looking forward to a great 2022. On the inside, I think I'm like everybody else. I'm riddled with anxiety and fear.
And I was just going to say, I think everyone feels like that. I actually, in 2021, tried to reduce my toxic positivity because I was that way as well, where you're radiating all this optimism. And sometimes, you have to be a little more sympathetic and sensitive to understanding that everyone is feeling anxious.
Yeah, no, it's a horrible time. I mean, I think, no, I'm not saying that to be.
We just did a 180 there, Tamara.
Well, you're making me be truthful now. So I was like, oh yeah, it's going to be a great year. No, I mean, it is a terrible time, and it's a really hard time to be a parent. Parenting is hard to begin with, but you throw in a pandemic that doesn't seem like it's ever going to end, and it's just worry upon worry upon worry.
One of my resolutions for 2022 is to learn more from you. Because every time we chat, I feel like I'm learning a lot, and it actually makes me a slightly better person.
Oh, brother. Okay. That makes me feel
learned,
nice.
And I almost feel silly for saying this because I know a lot of women are aware of this, probably all women are aware of this. The word hysteria, or categorizing someone as hysterical, historically has a very discriminatory connotation. And you helped teach me what that is.
Well, it's interesting because I think that, as women, we really pick up on some keywords that are used to describe us, that have been used to describe us historically and currently, especially with the government and around the pandemic, and maybe how we're reacting to things like education or healthcare or worrying about our children. And one of the words that really came up being used by our government to describe how parents, aka women, were acting about things was hysterical or hysteria or anxiety, like all these words, right? Like, oh, you're anxious, you're an anxious mother, or you're a hysterical mother. And it's a really awful word to be using for women.
Because it's not just a brush aside. There is a history behind this word, right?
Massive history behind this word. Do you ever hear the word hysterical being used to describe a man?
Very rarely.
Exactly. And if it is used to describe a man, it means he's unmanly. Yeah. Right? So hysteric is the origin of the word is Greek, and it means the womb.
Okay.
So a hysterical woman is, an emotional woman. Was a mental health condition, really. And a hysterectomy is when you remove a woman's uterus and baby-making parts, if you will. And so that's how they used to cure women of mental health issues.
And
being too emotional.
And this was like a quote unquote legitimate medical diagnosis.
Yes.
And you taught me that it was diagnosed for women who either were experiencing anxiety, a whole host of different things, even just a lowered sex drive, and you would be hysterical.
Hysterical or too emotional.
Right.
Or overreacting or raising your voice. I mean, these are all words that are used against women, right? Shrill.
Yeah.
We're hysterical. We're anxious. We're out of control. We're all of these things that have to do with mental health, if you will. And so the best way to fix a woman of that would be to remove her womb, and then she won't be hysterical anymore. So, put all that aside, because when you look at the word hysterical, and you research what that word means, then maybe you wouldn't use that word to describe women. Or maybe you wouldn't use that word to describe mothers who are worried about their children in a pandemic going to school where it seems very unsafe, And so when we speak up and out and against the government or, the policymakers or the bureaucrats, we're called hysterical. Don't get hysterical about this. Don't be, And the
emotional. Fascinating part is this is not that long ago. This isn't like Salem witch trials. It was in the American Psychiatric Association, DSM, until 1980.
Yes.
So
it's
we're not far removed.
No, not at all. And so when I hear our premier use the word hysteria to describe how parents are reacting to something, it makes me think that this is somebody who has no idea about the language they're using, because we all know that words matter and language matters, especially when we're talking about public health. And
you are taking back that word, at least you tried to this year, with a t-shirt line with Madam Premier, a politically conscious clothing brand. Yeah. And it says hysterical woman. So you're taking it back now.
Well, it's just like, what else are you going to do, right? We have to take back those words because, it's for a man to call a woman hysterical is so awful and so offensive. It's offensive. And a man would never put up with that.
Yeah. Well, Tamara, stick around because I do want to talk about parenting during the pandemic. Okay. Thanks for being here. Folks, when we come back with Tamara Taggart, she will still be here, and she is going to talk about parenting during the pandemic and another term from our vocabulary that we should probably drop: special needs. She'll explain why. I'm Mo Amir. This is VANCOLOUR. Welcome back to This is VANCOLOUR. My name is Mo Amir, and in today's very special day after New Year's Day episode, we've been chatting with Canadian broadcasting icon and my friend, Tamara Taggart. Tamara, thanks for sticking around.
Yeah, it's good to be here.
So as I said before the break, I learn so much from you. And something I learned recently was actually me coming to you and asking you about the term special needs, because I had seen in passing that some disability advocates were saying that this term is inappropriate and, in fact, inaccurate. And you broke it down for me in terms of why this is not appropriate or even accurate.
Yeah, the number one reason why it's not appropriate and shouldn't be used is because people with disabilities are telling us to stop. Sure. So that's the number one reason, right? Disabled people do not want the term special needs used. Yeah. Special needs is not going to save us from anything. It doesn't give us any power to fight, because special needs is not covered in the Canadian Charter of Rights. Disability is. And it's same with the United Nations Declaration for People with Disabilities. It's not people with special needs. 25% of Canadians have a disability, not special needs. So we need to own that word. We were talking about ownership of the word hysterical. Well, it's ownership of the word disability. Yeah. It's not a bad word. It was made bad by non-disabled people.
Right.
Trying to fix every disability there is, because if you have a disability in the eyes of non-disabled people, there's something wrong with you.
So part of this issue seems to be reconceptualizing this idea of disability, because you and I were chatting and I was saying, if I don't have my glasses on and I'm in downtown Vancouver, I'm having a much different experience than with my glasses. And disability is usually seen in this very narrowed, almost othering sense, right?
Well, it's like somebody who uses a wheelchair. Are they any less than me or you because we don't use wheelchairs?
Of course not.
Exactly. But we live in an ableist society where, you and I don't notice if there's a curb cut or not.
Exactly, yeah.
And we take that for granted every single day. And we're not fighting for curb cuts. We're not fighting for elevators. We're not fighting for plastic straws that some disabled people need to eat, right? Instead, ableists, and we live in a very ableist society where we think that everything has to be perfect and non-disabled, and that's just not a reality. We all move through disability our entire lives. When I had cancer, I was disabled, and now I don't have cancer. When I was pregnant and had a C-section, I was disabled. Like, there's so many things, yet we've put this, and the pandemic has really highlighted a lot of it.
It's interesting that we live in what I would call a sensitive time. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I just mean it in a time that is sensitive to how words are used. And yet you still will have politicians, people in media
never say the word.
Oh, they don't say the word anymore.
I've never heard them say. No. They say special needs all the time.
Okay, that's what I mean.
I never hear politicians say disability or disabled.
Why? Why is that?
I have no idea. Maybe because we have so many disabled Canadians living in poverty. Maybe because we have so many disabled Canadians who are not getting equal access to healthcare or housing or employment or funds to survive in a pandemic. When CERB is $2,000, but the disability payment is a one-time $600 payment. Right. I don't know. Maybe that's why they don't want to say the word disability. I have no idea why they won't say it. But they need to start saying it because special needs means nothing. It means nothing in education. It means nothing in healthcare. It's disability. And that's what, and people have to start saying the word and have to start acknowledging how little value we put on disabled Canadians. That even in a pandemic, if it hasn't highlighted just how bad things are for disabled Canadians in this pandemic, I don't know what else will change.
Let's pull back a second and talk about parenting during a pandemic.
Sorry, I was getting real fired up there.
No, I loved it. And I want you to get fired up about this as well. You're a mother of 3. Your son has Down syndrome. When we look at the relief and support provided during the pandemic for children, but particularly for children with disabilities, how has it been for you personally?
Okay, so let's back up your question there. You said the relief for children.
Supports.
Okay, supports for children. What supports for children? What supports have you seen for any child?
I don't have a child, so I'm not sure.
But do you know what I mean? Like, I don't think there's been any supports for any children when it comes to education in this pandemic.
Right.
We're sending kids to school that were unvaccinated. We're sending them to school without a mandate for masks for a long time. Teachers aren't mandated to be vaccinated. They're not mandated to wear N95s. We have no idea what our ventilation system is like in any school because there's never been any transparency with any of that. So it's really bad for kids with disabilities in school. But I would say it's not safe for any kids anywhere right now because we have a huge population of children up to 5 years old that don't even have access to a vaccine.
And why do you think that that's being overlooked or neglected in the way that it has? Because clearly in so many households, the daily schedule of a child, their education is central to that household, right? You plan your whole life and schedule around when they go to school and when they come home. Why are we not seeing the supports that perhaps we need? Because
the economy is more important than anything else, even the safety of our children. And that's why they have to go to school so they can be looked after during the day by other adults so their parents can go to work.
Right.
That's the reality. Yeah. I mean, it has to be said out loud. We have the knowledge, we have everything we need to support teachers and EAs and support workers and children to go to school in a safe way. It's not about, this should we or shouldn't we or online or not online. It's like, it should be the most important thing we do is keeping people safe. And I haven't seen it happening in schools. I really, truly haven't. And when you raise your voice or you ask too many questions or you cause, a storm on Twitter or whatever it might be because you're asking questions about something, you were labeled as a hysterical mother, you're labeled as, too loud, a problem, or whatever it might be. When really at the end of the day, we just want our kids to be safe, and we want the people teaching them to be safe and the people supporting them to be safe.
Has anyone told you that you should run for office? It was from the heart, and I know it was genuine, but
it's true.
It speaks to a lot of people.
It's true. And we all know this. And that's what's so frustrating about all of this, right?
Yeah.
Just call it what it is. And then let's try to keep everybody as safe as we can. Like holding back rapid tests from people is just, I don't even understand it.
Yeah.
We need all the tools in the toolbox. Everything should be family centered when it comes to children, right? Deciding what is best for our kids. And it's hard to decide whether to send your kid to school or not. It's really, really hard for everybody.
Well, I know a lot of people appreciate your advocacy. A lot of people like me might want to see you in the halls of power, but you have been keeping busy. Just as we wrap up here, tell me about Down Syndrome BC.
Oh, yeah. So it's been a dream of mine for a long time to gather all of the parents and self-advocates and caregivers, people who love somebody with Down syndrome, into one spot where we can really have a united voice, because we've never really had that. We're always kind of scattered. There's no research or data on people with Down syndrome in this country, how many people there are, what their lives are like, anything about them, right? And so those are the things we want to do. We don't take any government money. Nobody can tell us what to do. And the reality of it is that I wanted to start it once Florence Gerard and her death was announced. And Florence Gerard was the 53-year-old woman with Down syndrome who was found dead in her caregiver's home, and she had starved to death. And this was 18 months ago now, or 2 years ago now. And so that was really the catalyst for starting Down Syndrome BC, because if we don't have a united voice, this is just going to keep happening, right? It's just going to keep happening. And we will, my son will be shut away when he turns 19, and many other kids and adults will be too, and we can't have that.
Well, I think it's fantastic work. Thank you for that. And I hope everyone supports you in whatever ventures you carry on with, because I know you're a very strong voice for a lot of parents and a lot of people in this province. So thank you, Tamara.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. Folks, for the full chat with Tamara Taggart, find This Is VANCOLOUR wherever you listen to your podcasts. I promise that we get into a lot more. If you are interested in learning about Tamara's new charity, Down Syndrome BC, and how you can help their mission to support members of BC's Down syndrome community live their best and fullest lives, please visit www.downsyndromebc.ca. Now stick around, because after some business, we're going to debate soup. Is it a meal? Of course not, right? But some people think that it is. The super serious debate about the super serious things, well, actually, with Katie Merrifield, is up next. My name is Mo Amir. This is VANCOLOUR.